Well, hello, and welcome back to the Builder Dad Shop. I'm Builder Dad Dan, and today I'm going to talk to you about a quick idea that kind of highlights why having a 3D printer in my wood shop is such an important aspect, such an important tool for me adding to my creativity, enabling me to change the way I do work and improve my workflow and also improve the quality of my products. And so in this case here, I've got these shoe racks that I make. And these shoe racks pose an interesting problem. The interesting problem is as simple as how do you clamp it to the bench? This is a Polk style workbench. So I've got a lot of 3/4 inch holes across it. I can't really just kind of clamp it to the frame. I've got different issues with it. And so what I always used to do was for a very long time, I would just kind of hold it there with my arm and then push the sander into it. Well, that works. It works okay, but things move, it vibrates, you know, it wears on your hand, so your hand is might be numb by the end of it. You might have little marks on it because this is sharp on the edges until I get it all kind of hand smoothed over. Well, so I'm using the sander, I'm using hand tools and things, I'm using hand sandpaper to kind of rough over all these edges to kind of round them and smooth them up. And so it's a lot of just like moving around, it's kind of pushing against this, and so it's moving around my table a lot. So I like to lock it in more. And so for a while now, I've been using a method of taking a piece of scrap wood, sending it through and clamping this down to the table. Now, if you look, the clamp is a little too tall to actually do it with inside there, so I can't just clamp this to my table. I always had to use a scrap piece of wood. And so when you do this, you've actually got to put this in, oops, and when you put it down, you see how it pulls this down? You kind of have to either put something underneath it and balance and then have it extend out longer. And it was a pain. It took me probably 5-10 minutes each time I wanted to rotate the shoe rack to get that right. And so I said, well, there's a better way of doing it. There's an easier option. And so to SketchUp I went into SketchUp and I started looking at the things that I already do. And one of the things I already do is bench dogs. And so I make a bench dog. I had a knob that I could screw things with and down. And so I said, well, what if I take the dog, I reverse it upside down, I put a bolt through it, so I've got a bolt through it here, and now I can pass it through my bench. And now this is solid within my bench. Now I could come up with a quick design that gives me pressure across the slats of the shoe rack, and I could slide this down, kind of lock it in place, and then I would screw the knob down to add my pressure. And so this worked out really well because now I've got this printed, and so the design took me maybe an hour to do. The switching it over, getting it on a printer took maybe another 15 minutes. And so relatively quickly, I could go from an idea and a concept to something that I could play with on my bench and see how it works. So the first one I did was this one. And now the interesting part about it is I put a little bit more plastic into it because I thought, well, hey, it needed to be thicker. And as I pushed down on it and tried to clamp it to my bench, I realized, okay, that's a little bit too thick. So here I quickly go to another revision, and you can see the difference. But I could quickly go from one version to another version rapidly, fast, and print it. And with very little cost, all of a sudden now I have a custom clamp that solves my exact unique problem. And so while this is why I like this so much, is that I have unique problems. You might have unique problems. And so as you're looking at the problems that you're trying to address in your workshop, you might find stuff from someone else. This is a great way of developing solutions for yourself that solve your problem. And so for me, this worked out great. Now my shoe rack is locked in. I can easily, quickly change it out, change the direction. I could put my thing in any orientation I wanted. So if I wanted to lock it in this direction, if I wanted to lock it this way and just switch the directions, I can do all that stuff because I can use any hole within my bench now, and I can do that. And if you look, it's solid in there to the point where now I can come back with a hand sander and I could sand all this. I could use sandpaper here, and I can use both of my hands without having to hold that in place. And so this is a great example of why I love 3D printing, why I love having a 3D printer for the wood shop. And so I hope this helped you out a little bit to see an option of something that I could quickly turn around and make and use it to improve my shop and the way I do stuff. Well, until next time, have fun, stay safe, and keep woodworking. You know, this is one of the best things to do. It puts a smile on my face every time I'm down here and I'm watching not just 3D prints transform from an idea to something, but the wood itself. You know, each piece of wood tells a story of its life. And my job is to kind of craft it. And I love it. So I hope you have fun, and we'll talk later.